Welcome back, or here for the first time. If my last vid was any indication at all, it may be your last. The topic of this video I'm looking at today is in regards to the Israel-Palestine, or perhaps Hamas, state of affairs. As usual, and to the complete incredulity of most from my last video, I'm not taking a stance on this. I'm not siding with either group, nor am I supporting nor offering any solutions at all. My videos are not about the issues being presented. My videos are about how we should be talking about issues, the methods we should be using in order to solve disputes, or, more accurately, the methods we are using, which do not solve issues. As someone in the comments said, the left is arguably worse than the right, and at present, I agree. Let's take a look at why. We are all individuals. We all have hopes, dreams, and feelings. We are a social species and collect into larger groups we call societies. These larger societies have laws, languages, cultures, morals, and a host of other things. I know, not earth-shattering stuff. Method of leadership of these larger societies can be drastically simplified into two groups: control by majority, control not by majority. In this video, we will only be looking at the first case, although I am happy to admit, happy is probably the wrong word, that there is a distinct possibility that the majority do in fact not have control of leadership in many democratic countries. Looking at you, Canada, for one. So, we have a bunch of individuals living together who must come to some sort of agreement as to how the society will be run. There aren't a lot of options here. We could allow people to tell us how they feel. In other words, subjectively.
You disagree with reality and biology?
That's your reality. I still
believe what you believe.
Believe what I believe.
Well, you're wrong.
Well, then you know what? That's cool. You don't always have to be right in life.
You should though. You should for your own sake.
So I'm telling you the sky's blue, and you're arguing with me and saying it's purple, and
But
you're going to believe that it's purple.
That's a tangible scientific fact. You can't like prove what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, and you could be right, but you can't really.
I am right.
Prove it.
I am right. I could prove it with. I could prove it with.
Wait, hold on. What is more right? How you feel, or facts and data behind what he's saying? What's more right?
Well,
logically.
Do you have the data?
Do you have it?
Yes, it's online.
Okay.
It's everywhere.
Okay.
So you're saying how I feel, my personal opinion versus facts. What's more relevant? What's more important?
I think for your world,
my world,
for your own life.
We're in the same world.
Right. I understand that, but I'm okay. What I meant by world was your own life experience, right? I think it only matters what you...
No, forget my experience. What is actually the facts behind all of our lives? What's actually there in front of us?
In this case, however, which feeling do we go with? One person has lived experience with crime, so we must go hard on crime. Another person has a personal truth of being unfairly targeted as a criminal, so we must go easy on crime. A third person sees crime all the time on social media, and so is very worried. A fourth person is a criminal and feels like having no police is the appropriate answer, and on, and on, and on. As we are individuals, we have individual nurture backgrounds. Our experiences may be similar, but we view them differently, which in turn makes us all different. Many on the left have been seen using subjective arguments, starting sentences and arguments with my truth or my reality, as well as things like I feel, Or making appeal to emotion arguments. Well, it's asinine, sure, but actually, it's worse than just being stupid. It's harmful. This is not how we think. It is how we feel. But others feel differently. So, if we only use these feelings, how can we ever solve any dispute? We need a different method of resolving disputes. However, there seems to be a growing number of people who don't see this. Many on the left have seemed to adopt an idea called intersectionalism. As I understand it, we take a look at those different subjective feelings and throw all of them out, leaving only the person who has been deemed the most discriminated against. The obvious problem here is that this is stereotyping at the very least. The potentially less obvious problem here is that this is in direct opposition with the idea that truth is important. Imagine a silly scenario. 3 small children have a fight on the playground. The first child is sure the second child started it. The second child knows the third child started it. And of course, the third child claims the first child started it. Now, 2 children are of the privileged group, and 1 child is of the discriminated group. So we know the child in the discriminated group is correct. Change which kid is which. This is simple. Their stories vary because they are relating their subjective views. In this fashion, we don't care about truth. We care about discrimination. But it's so much worse than that. Because we are only interested in discrimination, we are effectively discriminating. We have become the very same monsters we intended to eradicate. Biases are notoriously sticky things. Even when we are aware of them, we are still very susceptible to them. So much so that it is safe to say we can never be 100% sure that we are not committing them. As far as I'm aware, it is impossible for a person to always be objective. Having said that, let's look at the other case.
We support a 2-state solution.
Okay. Have you looked at that objectively?
What do you mean, have you looked at it objectively?
Have you analyzed that objectively?
This is something that we do support, yeah.
That's not an answer. Have you analyzed a second Palestinian state objectively? Have you analyzed it objectively?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. Have
You don't know
I
what it
personally
means
analyzed it?
You don't know what it means to objectively analyze something?
Know what it means subjectively.
Okay, so have you done that?
No, I have not. If I understand your question.
You might not be, because I can't believe that you would answer it in that way.
If we are not going to get anywhere by using subjectivity, then we should try our best to be objective and help others when they fall into the bias traps, just as we would like them to help us when we are committing similar errors. Although we can't be objective, we can certainly try our best. This is not a difficult concept. We try our very best to remove as much of our personal biases when looking at a topic. As difficult and potentially impossible as that may be, it is the trying that is important. Dr. Bonnie Jenkins, yes, PhD, is also a doctor of philosophy in international relations, has a BA in arts with masters in psychology and black studies, and has her master's in law, in addition to other accolades and accomplishments. Say what you want about some of those, but it should be clear that this is a very educated person. So why is it that she doesn't understand the question? Or is that what is really going on here? Who the hell knows? I hate it when I watch anyone who starts to tell me why a person or group is doing or saying one thing or another. If you want to know why someone is doing something, you really only have one choice. You ask them. They could tell the truth. They could lie. They might not know the truth, but in the end, you are always better off using their answer as opposed to potentially straw-manning their position. The left does this ad nauseum. The right want to build a wall because they are racist. The Christian fundamentalists are misogynistic and they want to control abortion laws. I'm not saying these are right or wrong. I'm saying we hurt our position by imposing our ideas of others onto them. Maybe Dr. Jenkins was trying to waste time, thereby run out the clock, so to speak. Maybe she thought not understanding the question made her look less dumb than answering it. Maybe she thinks feelings are more important than facts. I actually quit teaching a young student one time. I was speaking with his father and said, "Look, I'm really only interested in the truth." To which he replied, "I'm not interested in the truth. I'm interested in relationships." I asked him if that was true, and then I told him that I'm a teacher. Teachers impart education. Education is what society believed to be true. If he isn't interested in truth, he isn't interested in education. He should probably find someone who is not a teacher in order to further the indoctrination of his son. Poor kid. I had been hired to teach him math. Honestly, the kid's math was pretty good. His largest problem, as is very often the case, was his parents. Some people have somehow come to the conclusion that truth is unimportant. In the end, we only have what people say that we can deal with, not our ideas of why they might have said what they said.
So let me just start over. You're here representing support for a Palestinian state, correct?
Yes, yes.
Have you analyzed that support objectively?
Yes.
But you just said no. So
I'm trying to understand what you're saying. Okay.
I thought I made it pretty simple, but you said no. But I'll grant you that now you said yes, you have looked at it objectively.
Representative Brian Mast here has asked a very simple question. But in case there are other Dr. Jenkins out there, have you analyzed your support for a two-state solution objectively? With my amazing ability to make a short story long, you support a two-state solution. Have you examined that solution while trying your best to remove any subjective biases? Have you tried to remove your personal feelings and opinions? Dr. Jenkins says she was having trouble understanding, and then said no, and finally said yes. It certainly seems that Dr. Jenkins is having trouble understanding the question, but great job by Representative Mast to accept her new answer. Is it possible that Dr. Jenkins, with all of her education, does not understand the question? Sadly, yeah. It seems to me that we specifically educate, and that this is a problem. What I mean is that when someone wants to be a linguist, we teach them about languages. A math teacher gets math and education. An engineer gets science and math, and on, at least in higher education. In the lower grades, we more generally educate, or at least that is the idea, regardless of whether it is actually happening or not. I find it a little hard to imagine that such an educated person as Dr. Jenkins would have trouble understanding such a simple question. But I worry that both the way philosophy is taught, as well as the lack of critical thinking being taught in her many other degrees and accolades, as well as primary and secondary school, may very well be the cause of this. All in, I think this shows the distinction I see between education and intelligence. These seem to be very distinct to me, and I've been a teacher from babies to adults, private schools to universities for a very long time. At any rate, let's see where this goes.
So, having looked at it objectively, which I would assume somebody in your position does, who would you assess would lead that Palestinian state? Pick a group. You can name a group, but I'm saying Hamas, Palestinian Authority, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Fatah, some other group. Who would lead it?
I think that has to be something that's considered. I don't think I'm in a position to say
Who
that
did you
now.
objectively assess would lead it in determining you have support for a Palestinian state?
I don't think that I can answer that question. I think this is part of a larger discussion.
But you objectively assess that you support a Palestinian
I
state.
do support a
In objectively assessing that, who do you assess would lead that state? What group that does not receive military support from, say, Iran, do you assess would lead that state?
I understand your question, but I think I would have to have a little. I don't feel comfortable saying that without.
Have you
having
not
more
assessed
understanding.
what group
Yes.
would lead it?
A bit like a cub bear playing with his private parts, aren't you, Dr. Jenkins? So you are a government official, and you are supporting one idea over another, and you say that you have objectively looked at the situation, but you think that the leader of the solution you have proposed is not part of an objective assessment? I'm happy to admit that if I want to go to a particular restaurant tonight, I need not already have decided what I will eat, but this is a bit different. The U.S. backing a solution for Palestine is of major importance, not only to Palestinians and Israelis, but also in the Middle East at large, and certainly the religious groups of the area. That's not even to mention the international relations with those and many other countries. It is imperative to look at who would lead the Palestinian state, if you're suggesting there should be a Palestinian state, unless you're saying it doesn't matter. I really hope you're not saying that. We can imagine a lot of horrible groups leading them, as Representative Mast points out, or perhaps you have a different idea, which isn't horrible? This is precisely the question you are being asked.
Have you or have you not assessed who would become the leader of that Palestinian state?
This is part of a larger discussion.
But have you or have you not assessed that?
I have. This is a part of a larger discussion. I don't think I can't answer that question.
You can't answer whether you have or have not assessed who would lead the state?
I cannot answer a question about me, particularly what I think what it should be. I mean, I think that's part
You
of a
came
larger.
here and said there should be a Palestinian state. Have you or have you not assessed who would lead that? Just yes or no. Have you looked at who would lead it or have you not?
I support a two-state solution.
I know you said that numerous times. Have you or have you not assessed who would become the leader of that state? Fatah, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Palestinian Authority, somewhere else. Have you assessed who it would be?
In my daily life, there is little that pisses me off more often. I suppose that means my life is pretty good. First world problems, third world country. Answer the damn question. Maybe she doesn't understand. Maybe she's intentionally ignoring the question. Maybe she's waiting for her invisibility potion to take effect and disappear. There is no upside at guessing at why she is saying what she is saying. The best we can do is take her at her word and move on from there to the best of our own ability. She has said, we have objectively assessed the situation. We've not looked at one of the most obvious problems with our solution to the problem. So, you did not objectively assess the situation. You subjectively assessed the situation. Unsurprisingly, liked your solution and stopped thinking about it because you were happy with your answer. Confirmation bias is not only searching for information that supports your ideas, but also failing to look at information that causes problems with your ideas. As easy as it gets, Dr. Jenkins, a Palestinian state run by Charlie Chaplin is not the same as a Palestinian state run by Charlie Sheen. Although, I have to admit, I would like to see both. Who does America support in this situation? What about Charles Manson or Charlie Brown? Perhaps one of Thomas Sowell's best quotes, and he has a number of them. There are no solutions, only trade-offs. We have to examine, to the best of our abilities, what consequences will come from our actions. You are presently saying that you have not done that, or perhaps more accurately are saying, I will not say whether I've done that or not. Answer the damn question. In order to progress through difficult topics, we must be willing to have open and honest dialogue. When one does not answer the questions being posed, the dialogue is neither open nor honest.
I don't feel comfortable. I'm sorry. I don't feel comfortable.
You don't
answering the question
feel comfortable saying if you have assessed something.
No, what I don't feel comfortable is making a statement when I think it's part of a larger discussion.
Don't even say who it is. Just answer, have you assessed it? Have you assessed who would lead it?
Put it this way, there will be an assessment of this question within the U.S. government in terms of who we think should.
Came here supporting something you have not assessed.
I'm not in a position right now to say what that is because I think this is part of a larger discussion.
This is one of the biggest problems with many on the left, in my opinion. Listen real close. Turn up the volume. Make sure closed captions are on. We don't care what makes you comfortable or uncomfortable. And largely, we shouldn't. Your friends and family may care, sure, but the rest of us, we don't. We, as people, as societies, are interested in what is true, including the deluded parents of my ex-Mast student. If the dad wasn't interested in what is true, why buy groceries? Why look both ways prior to crossing the street? Why hire a maths tutor? Because it is true that people need to eat, that drivers aren't always in control of their vehicles, and that less than perfect math test scores can be improved with more work, study, and education. Look, here is how I feel. Some may agree, some may disagree. And that is the point. Feelings are subjective. Listening to elected idiots makes me feel uncomfortable. Listening to appointed idiots makes me feel uncomfortable. I find it personally offensive that these morons are placed in charge of anything more complicated than sitting the correct way on a toilet seat. Do you care? Muslim fundamentalists feel comfortable throwing homosexuals off of buildings. Many on the left feel comfortable with teaching prepubescent children about homosexual intercourse. If you care about one, you can't care about the other. So at least one of these groups have feelings that you don't care about. Christian fundamentalists are offended at the killing of fetuses. Many on the left are offended that women don't have the choice. When you care about one group's feelings and another group's feelings are in opposition, you are literally saying you don't care about one of the group's feelings, or at the very least, that one is more important. But how did you choose which? Your subjective feelings, and around we go. We don't care what others find comfortable or offensive, unless, of course, they align with our own preconceived notions, in which case, what an amazing person! What courage! What strength! What horror! What I'm hearing from Dr. Jenkins is, but I don't like your question. I'm not ready to be a big girl sitting at the big table. And look, that's perfectly fine. Go and sit at the children's table. But while I'm here, let me give it a try. I don't feel comfortable with you not feeling comfortable. This is not a mature conversation between adults which can lead to any positive solution.
Honestly, it's amazing. I think it goes back to your original statement, which was probably the correct one, that you have not objectively looked at this, and you got it right when you said that. I'm going to move on to another question.
Part of what the U.S. government wants to do.
You're supposed to be the part of the U.S. government that does that.
Around and around, obfuscation, deflecting, and lack of comprehension. Representative Mast is not asking you who, at this stage. He is asking you if you have thought about who. That's all. Do you need to go to the bathroom? Well, I don't know if it's a number 1 or number 2. Okay, but do you want to go to the bathroom? Well, look, I don't feel comfortable deciding if I will need paper or not. Yes, but I only want to know if you'll be in the bathroom in the next 5 minutes. Well, we're going to look at that in the future. It's honestly hard to come down only on Dr. Jenkins here. This kind of behavior is easily seen on all sides in many countries. Honestly, I don't really blame her. Just like I don't blame any of the politicians and government officials who do this regularly. I don't even blame the awful companies that have inhumane practices around the world, nor the tax-dodging billionaires, and on and on. People, groups, corporations will try their best to push the boundaries and get away with as much as they can in order to advance themselves in terms of power, reach, finances. I blame us for not holding them to account for their actions. Instead, we support those that align with our beliefs and call out those on the other side who don't. For far too many, the difference between a terrorist and a freedom fighter is based solely on their subjective biases as opposed to the objective acts in reality. Look on the news. I mentioned Charles Manson earlier. Of course, an absolute monster, but I have some bad news for you. There will always be monsters. There will always be people who do things that are unacceptable, and yes, they should bear the responsibility of their actions, except we do blame them. We put them in jail or otherwise attempt to impose justice. But that isn't what we do in the case of Dr. Jenkins. In the case of the sweatshops that still exist around the world, not even with slavery, child trafficking, or 100 other terrible things that happen every single day. It's our fault. We keep voting for idiots, greeting, lying, corporate shills or accepting appointments like Dr. Jenkins here, and then we don't do anything about it when they can't do their jobs. And for any Dems out there that think I'm picking on her, she's just an example of far too many on your side. And some on the other. I don't blame the young boy who doesn't know if he's going to be standing or sitting in the bathroom. I'm simply saying that he must be able to answer that question prior to me being interested in what solution he proposes to a battle that has been happening since the late 19th century. So, which politician should I support? Which kind of phone should I buy? Which brand name of sneakers should I use? Look, it's not difficult to look at Charles Manson and call him evil. But how much blame do we take if we let him continue?